Today is a great, wonderful, amazing, incredible day, and I'll tell you why. Because it's a Germany day. How does German parenting differ from the US? Without further ado, let's get into this reaction. Let's go.
Is Germany safer for kids than the US?
Is it?
Why do German children travel to school alone so young?
Careful, girl. You're going to get hit by a train. Look where she stood. Whoa. She's way too close to the tracks. I'm sorry. I'm channeling my inner German. Move. Move from the tracks.
Why do German children travel to school alone so young? And is it true that German playgrounds are actually built to be dangerous? Let's find.
So you guys travel to school? Anyways, she's going to get to that point. But you guys let your kids travel to school when they're really young?
Find out. I first came from the US to Germany to work as an au pair, which is basically a nanny abroad. On the first day, I met my host family, and we all went to the playground together. As their 7-year-old, who would soon be my responsibility, climbed up to the top of this somewhat terrifying-looking playground, the parents asked me to join them for a walk across the park. Shouldn't we ask little Nicholas to come with us? I asked. Oh, him? Nah, he'll be fine up there. We'll see him when we come back, they said. That was my first clue that playtime in Germany is a little different than I was used to in the States.
That's different from what I'm used to in the UK as well. So you guys don't mind your kids just climbing on things and just leaving them and then coming back later? That's interesting. Maybe we wrap our kids in cotton wool in the UK and the US, clearly. I used to work in a primary school, actually. I worked in a primary school for a whole year. And yeah, you would never leave a child unattended, ever.
I've since learned that German parents just tend to be more relaxed about their children than American parents. For example, I was shocked when I first saw kids in Berlin around age 6 or 7 taking public transport to school by themselves. This would never happen where I'm from, but it's pretty normal here.
6 or 7? That's young. 6 or 7? 6 or 7? That's young. I don't think I took public transport. I didn't take public transport until I was about 11, 12. By myself. About 12. Yeah, until I was 12. 6 or 7.
Unlike American children, German children are not typically watched every second. They're expected to learn life skills early and be independent.
Wow.
Ich habe immer sie machen lassen, ne? Und wenn sie gesagt hat, nee Mama, ich will das alleine machen, nicht festhalten, habe ich das auch nicht gemacht.
Später wollen sie auch nicht immer bei den Eltern sein, dann wollen sie halt die Welt selber entdecken, dann ist man halt in der Nähe, verfolgt es. Ich meine, gerade das gehört ja zum Großwerden auch dazu. Und dann, ja, sollen sie auch ihren eigenen Weg gehen dürfen.
So-called free-range parenting doesn't exist here in Germany the way it does in the US, because that kind of parenting is just the standard here. So is Germany really that much safer than the States? Growing up in Ohio in the 90s and early 2000s, I was allowed to run around alone with my friends. Now some of my friends are parents themselves and wouldn't think of letting their kids do that.
Actually, she's right. She's right. When I was a kid, I used to go out by myself, go riding my bike by myself, play by myself, really young, and I was by myself in my neighborhood, and my parents were fine with that. But now I just feel like in the West, because of many reasons, because we know there's predators out there, I just think we're a lot more nervous as a society. We don't do that anymore. We were very like, ooh, you know, maybe too overbearing on our kids.
Safety is a big concern for American parents today, especially with all of the frightening headlines about children being abducted.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
There were around 375,000 reported entries for missing children in the US in 2023. In Germany, it was just over 90,000. Compared to each country's population, though, it works out to be about the same percentage of kids missing. But in both countries, the chances of a child being abducted by a stranger is actually quite small. And the person responsible is usually a parent or family member who doesn't have custody of the child. And in both countries, nearly all missing children are actually recovered. Here in Berlin, I more often hear parents worried about their kids crossing a busy road, or photos of them being posted on social media.
Okay. So you guys are more worried about your kids crossing roads. Well, I know about crossing roads. You guys are like serious. No jaywalking. Make sure you wait for the traffic lights. I get it. Yeah, okay, interesting. Different.
So the difference in parenting styles between the two countries does seem to be cultural. It's simply more normal for German parents to let their children out of sight than American parents. Tori Book, an American living here in Berlin, is adjusting to the German style of parenting after having her first child here.
I think German parents are just a little more relaxed, a little more chill, like less obsessed with, I have to track everything, I have to know everything about my child, where they're doing things, when they did something, and there's a lot more of an attitude of kids will develop the way they develop and we don't need to be so observant and so careful about tracking every little thing.
That's good.
Tori tries out her German-inspired parenting style on the playgrounds here, which look a little different from what we're used to in the US.
I love German playgrounds. I think they're amazing. Like, I think the problem in the US is we have a very cookie-cutter notion of like a playground has to look like this and have these features, and I feel like here the attitude is a lot more kids are kids, they love to be creative, they love to explore and have different experiences, and so let's give them really varied playgrounds.
I know what.
Yeah, it's true. It's good. It's good. Like, kids do love to explore. Like, kids' minds are developing and the world is developing around them and they're exploring. So, yeah, they need to have variety and, yeah, maybe not worry too much about safety because kids fall over and they hurt themselves. That's what you're supposed to do. That's part of growing up. Part of growing up. If you're a kid, when you were a kid, if you've never fallen over and grazed your knee or cut yourself or bumped your head, you know what I mean? That's the whole point about that is being a kid. Falling over, hurting yourself, doing something silly. You need to learn. You learn the hard way. You have to learn, okay, you don't jump on that. You don't climb on that. You watch where you're going when you're walking. You know? That's the whole point of being a child. And if we just wrap our kids up, by the time they're old enough to leave home and enter the world, they're scared of everything. In fact, I think that's the problem with the kids now that are coming of age, are just leaving school now. These Gen Z kids, they're very sensitive, overly sensitive about everything. They have no backbone. I'm sorry. If you're Gen Z, I'm really sorry, but it's like, I'm not saying all of you, but I do feel like your generation, you have no grit. There's no grit. Everything's offensive. Everything makes you feel everything. And it's not that you shouldn't feel everything. That's important, but you also need to understand the real world is not a nice place sometimes, and you need to be able to deal with that, and need to be able to deal with situations and things in life and take them within your stride. And I do feel like it begins early on in your development, and this is case in example. Anyways, enough of my ranting.
I know what she means. My playgrounds growing up mostly looked like this. Colorful, plastic, not too high, no sharp edges. So I was shocked when I first saw German playgrounds, often metal or wooden with more natural features and lots of character and whimsy. Some were downright terrifying, even for me as an adult.
To be honest, the first thought in my American brain was that German playgrounds look like a lawsuit waiting to happen. But I learned that they're actually built with risks involved on purpose. The idea is that children who face risks while playing will learn to better manage tricky situations and thus better manage their adult life later.
Yeah.
In fact, studies show children who don't face these risks are more prone to things like obesity, mental health issues, a lack of independence, and a decrease in learning, perception, and judgment skills.
There you go.
So while
Mental health was one of them. Obesity was one of them. Like, stuff that, yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. If you wrap your kid up and they're too sensitive to their environment, too insensitive to everything, it's not setting them up well for society.
So while Americans tend to build their playgrounds as safe as possible, Germans tend to build theirs as safe as necessary. Even insurance experts in Germany agree. They recommend playgrounds with calculated risks involved, balanced with safety features to promote problem-solving skills. You might think American playgrounds can't look like this because Americans are more likely to sue when their child gets hurt. But actually, despite the stereotype, Americans are less likely to sue than you might think.
Only a small percentage of civil court cases in the US actually involve personal injury, and most of those are related to car accidents.
The difference is Germans are less likely to win millions in a lawsuit against a playground where their child got hurt. That's because the sense of personal responsibility is strong here, and you're expected to accept the risks at the places where you go.
Whereas in America, you can sue for anything, boy. You can sue for anything. In America, you can literally, I don't know, I tripped over a slab, I am suing the entire government. I'm suing the council. Like, America's crazy for that.
But I was really surprised to learn all this, and I have to say, I prefer the German playgrounds. So how does this all compare to your country? Are children also given this much freedom there? Let us know in the comments.
No. I think ours are a little bit in between. I feel like we had climbing frames and more like edgy playgrounds, but like kind of more towards the American way, in between the American and German way. I do feel like though now we are becoming, the problem with the UK is that we follow the US model too much. We're like their lackey, we're like their little bitch. Sorry, excuse my French, but we do everything the Americans do, and the Americans don't do everything correctly. Like, I feel like we need to be more British and take more risks. I think the world would be a better place if kids took more risks and parents took a step back and allowed their kids to develop. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Until the next one, I will see you very soon.